They're beginning to break down our police effectiveness. Officers today are literally handcuffed by the recent court decisions favoring alleged violations of rights. They've been a continuing pawn during the political chess games in order for candidates to win votes. And we have supported all these moves. But now, we're beginning to see the results. The heart of law enforcement, the patrolman, is harder to recruit now more than ever. And turnover within the departments is at an all-time high, 20%. Despite the restrictions and allegations against the cop, some young men from our cross-quilted section of the country want to belong. Why? The hours are long, the pay is little, and their rewards a little more than criticism. 22-year-old Preston Chambers recently got out of the Navy, and like many fellow veterans, was at first confused by what his goal in life was. He had several jobs in just as many months before deciding to be a cop.
I got out of service in April, and I've had several jobs. Just looking for satisfaction in my job. Just looking for something that would leave me with a satisfied feeling of some kind of accomplishment when I went home at night.
David Robertson, another Vietnam veteran, looks at life a little more cautiously, but is a little more philosophical about his fears.
I guess as you get more into it, you kind of shove these things aside. But now I hesitate because here I am, a rookie. I'm not really trained or specialized in this field of policing yet.
What these two boys have yet to learn is limitless. What they have learned is invaluable. One of the first men Preston and Dave meet during their week of indoctrination is Officer E.H. Lyons, a veteran of 21 years on the force. He works the day watch with the Crime Prevention Bureau, an experimental liaison department between people and police. Lyons' beat is the high crime areas, in areas such as this where children play in the streets for lack of a proper playground. Every one of these youngsters lives in a potential breeding ground for a life of crime. Lyons knows this and understands it. He lives with their problems and is aware of their fears. One day his role might be that of a public protector.
He don't have anywhere to stay. She didn't. He burned her house up.
Who saw him do it? Anybody see him do it?
Yeah, we seen him did.
You saw him do it?
Yeah, because that night we had been out to the club, and when we come in, he was up there in her house, and I told her, I said, "Handmaid, don't go up there." She said, "Well, I got to have somewhere with my children to stay. Her children, 5 children, was upstairs." And I said, "Handmaid, don't go up there." And we went up there in the yard, and he had the door closed. My boyfriend wanted to go in the house.
More often than not, these citizens have no idea of what their rights to protection are, and it's Lyons' duty to help them.
This is a job we're assigned to do, to aid these people in any respect. Help them obtain warrants and help them understand what their problems are. If they run into obstacles out there about a warrant, we're supposed to assist them and advise them, even go so far as to take them down there in these hardship cases. This is a hardship case. There's a mother here with 2 or 3 children, don't know where to stay. House burnt out from under. She goes down there and try to obtain a warrant and don't know how to express herself, so we go down there with her and explain the situation to them and obtain a warrant for her.
He might be a guidance counselor.
Now, when your mother leaves you at home and some strange person comes to your home and knock on the door, you shouldn't let a stranger into your house or meet him there.
Many times, Officer Lyons' role as a cop is to listen to problems of neighborhood groups such as this one regarding police protection.
What about how was this man killed?
The shot?
Shot?
Yes.
Do people know who shot him up there?
I guess it did.
His next day may bring him to an EOA center.
We are wondering if in your spare time you would go down and make an investigation and check to see if this is true.
I'll check this out for you, Miss Jansen, shortly, and let you know the results of my findings.
Thank you very much.
All right, then.
These people depend on Lyons, not only because he's a vital link to downtown, but he understands
I was given a call to meet another officer, and the officer related to me that he had caught this young man sniffing glue and asked me would I make charge against him and place him in juvenile. And of course, in talking to the young man, he seemed pretty bright, and I asked him would he like to go back to school. He said yes, but he would like to have some type of employment. This young man who became interested in him as of yesterday wanted to drop out of school to get a job to help his mother and the family out. And we're trying to encourage him to continue his schooling.
We'll try to work him in, see.
And of course, the young man wanted to transfer in a high school nearer to his home. And I also agreed to that I would help him get his transfer if it's possible, and talk with the principal there.
But be sure to get your official withdrawal from Bass. And when you come, since you live on Proctor, there won't be a problem in getting into school.
Lion's Watch may not deal in the spectacular, but it's more important than solving a crime. He's preventing one.
All the children that are aged to school age, they attend school every day. They don't have to stay out to babysit the smaller kids as they were yesterday.
Officer Lyon's job in the Crime Prevention Bureau is a very personal war. A war against things he knows about. Poverty, illiteracy, the lack of housing, and the lack of understanding. But is he winning it? Like any new department in the Atlanta police force, the battle is all uphill. Some critics feel the program is nothing more than a Mickey Mouse Corps or a Boy Scout troop. Others call it an overdue innovation. Whatever it is, it's at least the first step in a long procedure of learning for the rookies like Preston Chambers and David Robertson. Had we more teachers like E.H. Lyons, we'd have less criticism and a lot more understanding of the people's needs for police.
You also have to advise him that anything he does say can and will be used against him in a court of law. You also have to advise him that he has the right to consult with a lawyer and to have the lawyer present during the interrogation. And that if he
After a few weeks on the street with seasoned patrolmen from the Crime Prevention Bureau, the rookies like Dave and Preston are given a 30-hour basic police course by veteran police officer Lieutenant S.L. Salvant. It familiarizes the men with the laws, Supreme Court rulings, and city ordinances. It's pretty dull, but today more than ever, vital to a police career.
And again, it comes right back to you as a police officer as to how well you patrol and how aggressively you patrol.
The second phase in Dave and Preston's schooling is at the State Patrol Academy, where experts in various fields teach and demonstrate what a patrolman might be faced with during his watch.
That people are today more conscious of their rights than they ever have been before. And also, it is probably the population during this generation, these times, which is the best read and the best informed. And let me throw out to you now some figures with respect to the results of investigation by the FBI of allegations of police brutality. Remember now, in 1963, there were 1,376 allegations, violation of a federal law, for which, upon conviction, you could be sentenced to a federal penitentiary. Of 1,376, there were 6 convictions. In 1964, 1,592 complaints, 5 convictions. 1965, 1,787 complaints, 9 convictions. You use the same degree of performance in the ghetto as you do in the suburb. You use the same performance when you arrest the driver of a broken-down hack as you would one who is driving a Cadillac.
Observation shows this bias all too evident, providing a base for anti-police charges, whether true or untrue. As the school continues, Dave and Preston begin to question constructively, how well equipped will they be?
I have a basic idea of what my duties are and everything, but along the way, I'm going to have to do research on my own and get a better idea of it.
A lot of times, you get to a situation where you got to do it, and it don't work just like you will say the school say, well, you got to do it this way. Well, they should have spent more time on more different things and dwelling mainly on bleeding and artificial respiration. I think they could have used it a little more constructively. They spent, I think, an hour and a half or 2 hours on emergency childbirth. This is something that should have been, you make 1 in 1,000 births and a police officer might deliver the baby. But it's one of the things that if you have to do it, you better know how to do it right, or you're going to cost somebody their life.
I wouldn't actually come out and say that I'm qualified to really save a man's life, but I'm qualified to the point where I could be working to save his life until help comes.
You throw this shoulder, which is up, toward your target. But get squat down, make a small target, so if the guy's shooting at you, he has a smaller target to hit. And I just jam the gun right in his gut. Then I put my trigger finger on the trigger. 10-4.
John Langsfeld is an FBI agent who teaches firearms training, and he takes his job seriously. He worries whether or not he's getting the important outlines across to the young men. Do they understand the difference between logical action and an emotional reaction?
If I knew how to give a course in common sense, I'd be the richest guy in the world. But how do you teach a guy common sense? Common sense is something that you get through environment. There are 100 different factors involved. The thing is about the police officer, he's on the spot, and when something happens, he don't have time to call his sergeant or his captain or get his buddy who's got so-called common sense. He has to react to a certain situation spontaneously. For example, they'll always ask you the question, what kind of force can a person use? They'll always say to this answer to this question, what is necessary? I say, I would add one more thing to that, reasonably necessary. What is reasonably necessary? And then that's where this common sense and good judgment comes into play. Maybe that'll give you a better insight into some of the young officers' problems. And they take the men as they get experienced in the police department like detectives. They're like us. They become investigators, and they know how they're going to work a case and how to handle people. But these young officers, they're exposed to danger every day of the week.
Practical training in the use of their weapon is what these men want to get across to the rookie. Don't use it unless it's a matter of life and death. And how to use it when that time ever comes up.
I know, personally speaking for myself, I could have used more time out there. I got what they considered a passing grade. In fact, I got a little better than what they consider a passing score, but I still say it's a lot different laying there on the ground shooting at a still target than just ducking around an alley trying to shoot at somebody. Well, the thoughts that run through your mind is, if I shoot that man, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to take his life away from him. He's going to be dead, and I won't be alive. Was I justified in shooting him? Was he wrong? And the tension that's on you just from these thoughts that are going through your mind are enough to, in some respects, cause you to, in some people, cause you to fall completely apart, and other people to lose whatever control they might have had. And some people might not be affected by it at all.
Seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, and feeling. And we depend upon it. And these are the things that tell us that what is in an area or what's at the crime scene, and these are the things that we can testify to. Then, when we have testified to this, then the expert from the laboratory can tell you approximately how long since the gun was fired, also whether or not this gun fired these 2 cartridge pieces. So, gentlemen, everything must prove itself.
You have the central nervous system depressants, the central nervous system stimulants, and the hallucinogenic drugs, which includes marijuana. Now, one of these 3 groups is what you would call a truly addicting type drug. Now, this is a drug that has both a mental, you would build up both a mental and a physical dependency. In other words, your mind would tell you that you want to take it, and not only that, if you don't, your body will be telling you that you want to take it, because you would be going through a withdrawal, and it's very uncomfortable. Now, your central nervous system depressants, you would develop both a mental and a physical dependency. This includes the morphine, the also the barbiturates. If these drugs are taken over a period of time, your body will build up a tolerance, and you will build up a physical dependency, because your body will tell you that you need this drug. Now, the central nervous system stimulants, you can develop a mental dependency. Your mind will tell you that you want to take it. However, if you do not take it, you will not go through any physical withdrawal. With your hallucinogenic drugs, you will have a mental dependency. If you do not take it, you will not have withdrawal.
If I walked into an apartment right now and it was filled with smoke from marijuana, I would say it would be a 50-50 chance that I would find it. I would hate to think that I was going to make an arrest and take somebody's freedom away from them just because I thought that I smelled marijuana.
It has been a real pleasure having you as our guest these past 2 weeks. And we are hopeful that the material presented during these 2 weeks will be beneficial to you in getting you off to a good start in your law enforcement career. I want to commend each of you for successfully completing this program, and it's a real pleasure for me now to award each of you your certificate. If you will come forward as your name is called, I will award your certificate. Preston A. Chambers, Jr.
Although David and Preston received 2 weeks of intensive training, they both felt the need for more time.
David R. Robertson.
But time is a commodity too expensive for the Atlanta police. They needed the rookies on the street. But what is the most practical way for fellows like Dave and Preston to learn how to be efficient cops?
I believe the most practical part is being on the street, riding with a guy. I mean, you can sit a guy into a room, have all these papers and books in front of him. He might be able to grasp a hold of reading and stuff like that, can go through that with no trouble at all. But then when it comes to the actual practical part of it, they're not able to. And so I've actually, you might say, have learned more by going out, riding with these guys, seeing how they handle these situations that come up with the wife beating, where you get there and here's a woman all black and blue, and the man's been beating her since early morning. And see how he handles that, or how he handles a drunk, or whatever the situation might come up. And then from what you have learned through him, along with what you've learned in the academy, you combine the two, along with your beliefs, and you come up to be your own policeman.
To be your own policeman, though, you have to commit yourself, have confidence in knowing what to do.
I think sometimes that a person won't make an arrest because of a feeling of uncertainty in their own self. I know it's a heck of a thing when you're thinking about, now I'm fixing to take that man's freedom away from him, take him away from his family, take him away from his friends, his job, and everything else. I'm going to put this man in confinement, take everything away from him that he has. Am I right? Am I absolutely sure that what I'm doing is right? That's a big responsibility.
Knowing when you're right or wrong takes experience, something these two rookies haven't got as yet. But they do see examples of proper performance by officers every day.
Down the street, which is off the beat from where we were supposed to be, down at that bar, the colored guy gets shot in the stomach with a 38. That was a good example. Policeman got there, seen what the situation was, seen that he was bleeding out. You put him a pressure bandage on over the gunshot wound, slowed down the bleeding enough, what you might say, he did save that guy's life. If not, he would have bled to death right there.
After a few weeks, this learning by doing tactic begins to pay off, and they start to realize their worth as police officers.
We arrested a man for making an obscene phone call because the facts were there that he did it. We had probable cause to believe that he was guilty of that crime. He was there. He was identified over the phone by the woman. They traced the line and everything. And he made no attempt to deny it.
On this morning watch, Preston's partner was Officer Robert Peppers, a 15-year veteran. He claimed he wouldn't trade places with a rookie for anything. Too many obstacles working against today's law enforcement. But the lawbreaker doesn't change.
We were there, I got out and I checked the building. And I got back in the car, and 2 minutes after I got back in the car, we were called completely to the other side of the beat. When we got to the other side of the beat, we were notified. The people said, we didn't call you. We didn't call for the police. We went right straight back to where we were and got back, and then about an hour later, as soon as they opened up, they reported a burglary. Now, this was not our fault. Chances are we caught the man in there and scared him. I believe to the day I died that the man was in there when we were there, and he called.
And sometimes their suspicions prove unfounded. This 2-day abandoned auto turned out to be nothing more than a drunk driver leaving his car, then forgetting where he left it. But tonight, Preston's watch ends on a lighter note. As these two rookies gain more information about their role as cops, more questions enter their minds. More questions than can be answered. Like the number of police available to protect the citizen.
It was ridiculous, the ratio between the people to be protected to the people to protect them.
That ratio is ridiculous. By our figures, there's one officer for every 1,500 persons in Atlanta. Astounding as those figures are, in some quarters, that's a very conservative estimate. One of Dave's officers recently remarked, if Atlantans knew how little police protection they did have because of this lack of manpower, they'd be scared to death. But of the officers that do belong, and the new men that want to belong to the force, they readily answer the critics why they belong.
I'm not qualified to say that, really, but I do see a need for more policemen. And I've had a couple of people talk to me. They said, how come you joined the police force? I come up and I told them, I don't know, I guess you have to be an idiot to want to go out, you might say more or less, looking for trouble.
The type of job is a challenge every day. It's different. You don't ever face two situations exactly alike. And for the 25 people that will call you a pig, the one who says thank you for helping me makes it worth it.
I had a guy the other day come up on the street and he asked me, he says, well, what do you think about police brutality? I asked him, I said, now what if you was in my uniform and you're making the pay that I make, which isn't really the best in the world? And you come up and you got this drunk. He's being abusive. And he spits that in your face. I said, now what are you going to do? He said, well, I'm going to knock hell out of it. And that there, he answered his own question.
Unfortunately, the answers aren't that simple. But one question is, how can the police carry out their duties to protect the citizenry, enforce law and order, and at the same time avoid the charges and allegations hurled against them? They're damned if they do, and damned if they don't. FBI agent John Langsfeld comes up with part of the answer, though.
I don't know, frankly, how they do it, how they hire these boys for what they pay them. I don't know how they do it. They must want to, a lot of them must want to be dedicated to law enforcement, just like teachers or nurses. My wife's a nurse. So there's something more, some desire to be a servant.
David and Preston's class will complete their formal training with 3 weeks of city police school. Once on their own, some of these young men will become lackadaisical or uncaring, and some others overzealous and too suspicious. But they're all we've got.
Today, the mob in America. The officers of Police Unit 26 have been on duty since 4 o'clock this afternoon, a full 8-hour shift. They patrolled over 28 miles of streets, investigated 17 calls, made 1 arrest. At midnight, tired, hungry, ready to call it quits until tomorrow. This age 29, and his sidekick, 24-year-old Al Harvey. They've been patrol partners for 6 months, working one of the biggest cities in the country. On the job, they're a precision team. Off duty,
roll call. Wiggins, 2L1. Worsham, 2L34. Holmes, 2L26. Tibbs. Here. Harvey. Here.
3:30 Saturday afternoon, a time most people can call their own.
Ingram.
Officers Al Harvey and Denny Tibbs chose police work over more conventional careers for a number of personal reasons. And even though they place action and excitement, responsibility and recognition high on their incentive list in answer to a friend's challenge, Denny's decision came at age 9 at a San Fernando supermarket. Today, both Al, with 3 years in the department, has set his goal on becoming a lieutenant before retirement. Denny, with 7.5 years, has been selected to become a special training officer next year. He's also up for promotion to sergeant.
This indicates that...
Meantime, however, routine often rules.
Now we'll have vacation check. 1427 Calumet, 2826. They are going on vacation from the 14th to the 28th.
Checking the household of a citizen off on vacation is one of the daily chores of a police patrolman.
One for...
Memorizing a suspect's M.O. is another.
North Benton Way. That'll be the end of the vacation checks. We'll have teletypes now. Okay, we have a suspect wanted for 459 under DR 67073-230. Last name is Johnson. James Wayne. He's a male Caucasian, 23, DOB of 7644, 5'7", 150, brown and hazel. Suspect hangs out in the area of 8th and Vermont, MacArthur Park, and the Boys Bar, 11th and Alvarado, 06069. That's it. Everything's on the sheets. Be sure you pick up your hot sheets prepared for inspection in the fall.
Detail, attention, close interval, dress right, dress.
Daily inspection may seem like idle ceremony to the outsider, but to the policeman, it's an essential part of his job. Discipline rules in the lives of these men. The average man here is approaching 25 years of age, probably just begun a family. All are high school graduates. Most have college training. The salaries paid most policemen are good, and getting better as more and more people realize that their safety depends almost entirely on the police. Like many policemen, Al Harvey has never had to shoot at anybody. He doesn't want to, but he knows he can't hesitate when the time comes to use his weapon. When Denny Tips first came on the force, he was always conscious of the gun hanging on his side. Now it's a tool of his trade. At least once a month, he's out on the pistol range, shooting an expert rating for a salary bonus of $8. Varied as their jobs may be, the men of the department all have one thing in common: their early training at the police academy. Denny, a football man in high school and college, doesn't have it was rough. Al says it was a lot like boot camp, except boot camp was easier. It does what it sets out to do, to separate the men from the boys. The daily business of police work, however, isn't run on memories of the past. It's a direct contact game with reality, and the police officer is on the receiving end.
Fire. Dismiss.
For Al and Denny, the game begins each afternoon in Patrol Unit 2A26, about the time most people are going home for dinner.
KMA 367, 5 p.m.
I haven't seen that MP park there before. Crossways and parking places, let's check it.
Plate finder, you put it on top.
Back to unit number 74, 59, 459. 459, solid with 10 minutes delay in a man at Angeles.
The first lesson every police officer learns is that no matter how innocent a situation may appear, there's always a possibility of danger. A car parked illegally in an alley might belong to a housewife in a hurry to get to her hairdresser. It could also be involved in a felony in progress, a criminal act that would warrant a Code 3. This sports car has proper license and registration, and it's not listed on the hot sheet. But they'll run a make on it anyway. In investigation, you assume nothing.
Boy, this is good.
KMA 367, 7 p.m.
The night watch for patrol partners Al and Denny can drag on without much excitement for hours at a time. But this is part of a patrolman's job. This is the way it happens to be. And this is the way they spend most of their nights on duty in Unit 2A26.
Sometimes we'll strip the thing down and bring it, put it back. And the air's even been quiet. That's just about the kind of night we're going to get involved in something big.
Naturally.
Usually happens that way. If it's busier than the devil, you're just running back and forth from the quiet. You're going to get...
KMA 367, 8 p.m.
The street's been dead with people.
I haven't seen a good shit.
No hot calls, nobody on the street.
Units in the vicinity, 2 Adam 26, 211 in progress. The northwest corner, Melrose and Vermont, at the gas station, 2 Adam 26, code 3.
2A26, roger. We're right on top of that, partner.
Well, we sure are. Hey, I won't use a buzzer. We'll come in on us island. We're close enough. We don't need it.
Okay.
Let's roll on it.
Hit the shot.
Code 3, the hot alert to all units. 211 in progress. Armed robbery called in from a filling station only blocks away. But Denny knows the value of surprise. He won't use the siren.
Here, keep your eyes open. He's running hard.
There he goes, partner. He's pulling out of the gas station right now.
I got it. Get on the air. He's going.
2A26, we're in pursuit. Southbound on Vermont Avenue, chasing the 211 suspect from Vermont and Melrose.
All units, all frequencies, stand by. 2A26 is in pursuit. southbound.
2826. It's a light Ford. I can't read the license number, partner. Can you get it?
No, I can't get it either. I'm gaining on it. We should be able to hang that license number quick.
Watch it, partner. He's going to that bank building there.
Get it. He's going to the UCB on Vermont.
2826. Suspect is turning to the UCB building at 411 South Vermont.
I got it. He's going up the ramp. We got him nailed now. It's a dead end on it.
Stand up, partner. Watch him, Ellie. Stop. Put your hands up. I'll pull you up. Okay, get down on your knees. Across your legs. Keep those hands high. Okay, I got it, partner.
He's got a gun.
He's got a gun in his pocket.
Tell me, over your back.
All right, put your hand on top of your head.
Watching me have two of them.
Okay, down behind your back, both of them. All right. Okay, you guys, put out code 4.
Al Harvey and Denny Tips have just executed one of the hottest calls a patrolman can come in on. They know that every time you roll on a code 3, it could be your last one. But this is what they're trained for, the deadly triangle between criminal, policeman, and a loaded weapon. Al remembers his first code 3 as a rookie police officer. A different situation, but just as critical to the people involved. It was an ambulance sick call. A pregnant woman was about to have her baby on a bus stop. Denny's first code 3 came through 7 years ago. 4:15, man with a gun, shots fired, holding hostages. Enough to make adrenaline flow in the most experienced officer. Denny was still a cadet in the police academy. It was his very first night in the field. Tonight, he was just as scared. Rampart Division. The 211 felony suspect is brought in for booking. This is the natural climax of most Code 3 calls. A return to the station and the detail work that's a part of every police arrest. Tonight, Al and Denny have shown the teamwork essential for their job.
I want to see my lawyer.
We got him in the gas station, chased him down the street, caught him down by the UCB bank on Vermont. No shots fired, no nothing. We advised him was right, caught him in review. Had a loaded 38 in his waistband when we got him. Probably stolen, I don't know yet.
You haven't run the gun yet?
No, I haven't.
I want to talk to him for about 10 minutes. If you guys want to have a cup of coffee, go ahead.
Leave it with you and make your reports after that.
Okay.
Hey, Al, you want to get a cup?
Yeah, okay.
Got about 10 minutes, we'll come back and make your booking.
I want some cold. I'm tired of running.
Al and Denny laid their lives on the line. Their pulse rates are back to normal now, but the tension is still there. You can joke about it, laugh, or smother it with small talk. But there's one thing you can't do. You can never forget it.
Yeah, this is Tips of Rampart. I'll get up. Busy Saturday night at the desk there. Tied up still. Always. Well, we're really lucky we came around the corner when we did tonight. Right in behind him.
Surprised me when he turned in the bank the way he did.
Well, you better believe it. Knew when he went up that flight we had him, because that ceiling up there is nothing but an open two-story jump.
We better finish his reports.
Yeah. It's getting late now. We're not going to get these tonight either.
Old Balboa Stadium, San Diego. Because Saturdays and Sundays
remembrance for every police officer and citizen in the land. Of course, today is the commemoration of Peace Officers Memorial Day. We must pause and reflect on the sacrifices and accomplishments of all the brave men and women who, through dedication to their neighbors in communities throughout the United States, chose to take on a task of monumental proportions. This has been the course which many dedicated police have chosen since sheriffs and constables kept the peace for the early colonists. The Nassau County Police Department has not been in existence for such a long period of time, but we have, in the past 50 years of our existence, made great strides in the development of modern law enforcement. In 1925, to the present complement of almost 4,000 men and women who patrol our streets, plus another approximate 1,000 men and women who serve as civilian components. These people who respond to the cries for help and assist in making Nassau County the peaceful and secure place it is today. 23 men and women have given their lives for the people of this county in the service of the police department over the last 50 years. Many others have been severely...
A leader, just as its modern 911 emergency dialing system makes the Nassau County Police Department outstanding today. Manned both by officers and civilians, Nassau's 911 emergency system assures that police assistance is but minutes away. To see how it works, let's listen to an incoming call.
Police emergency 175.
Yes, would you please send an ambulance?
The address?
273 Rudolph Road, Mineola. Man collapsed on the front lawn, and I think he's had a heart attack. I don't know.
Let me have a cross street.
Brooks Avenue.
All right, let me have the number you're calling from.
422-0172. Please hurry.
Last name, please, ma'am?
Cartel.
Okay, we'll send an ambulance right now.
Thank you.
The police dispatcher knows the status of all patrol units in service, aware of the available officer driving that vehicle.
Headquarters of car 344. Car 344, number 273, Rudolph Road, Mineola, cardiac headed case. Ambulance 2360 responding from headquarters, 0958.
Okay, 344.
Once that message is received and acknowledged, and the police officer in the patrol car begins moving toward the scene of the emergency, the status of his vehicle changes. The light for car 344 turns red on the status board to indicate he is responding to the call. He is not allowed. As early as 1929, the department began formal training sessions, and today all officers begin their careers at the Police Training Center in Mineola as carefully selected recruits who undergo weeks of intensive studies and physical preparation. In the words of a previous police commissioner, John Beckman, a cop is only as good as the training he receives. And training applies not just to beginners. Even experienced officers take in-service courses and must regularly pass tests of a physical kind, such as marksmanship and driving. This is EVOC, the Emergency Vehicle Operation Course conducted at Mitchell Field. In the truest sense,
Education, desire, a sense of service for and with the people of our county. These are the things which make up the core of the Nassau County Police Department. They were bred into the department 50 years ago, and they continue today as living, vital elements in our concept and ideals in providing the service which you, the people, want.
179. David. Sir. Baker.
In 1971, Washington, D.C. took an innovative step by recruiting women to serve on their police force. Since then, several other cities have followed suit. No favoritism here. Everyone of the force is expected to meet the same high standards, from inspection to performance of duty. Patrolwoman Patricia DeWalt has been living in Washington for some time. She has a feeling about her community, and perhaps that was the principal motivation in her becoming a law officer.
And I got tired of just a regular, office job. I wanted to change and meet more people, in the community, and do a little something, for another person. I figured this is the way I could do it.
A large percentage of the time, a police officer's duties are routine. Patrol car cruising, traffic control.
.174 is 1099 to KLG 617 on test.
Sky 179, 182. Just west of TV Drive, north.
Even when it comes to training, no favoritism is shown.
Your training is just like what the guys go through. It's no different. They don't look at you at that academy and say, well, this is a woman. We're going to handle her different. If he runs around that track for a mile, you run around it too, and you better run it.
Right. Okay, hold it up. The man will reach up, grasp me by the throat.
And philosophy.
There's basically two parts to the job. One part is enforcing the law, and the second part is let's say helping people. Our relationships with people are a whole lot better than they used to be. But as far as enforcement of the law, we're slacking off, and that's part of the job. Or I think very few people were.
Burglary? My car hasn't been involved in no burglary.
That's what I
I just
understand.
served in my girlfriend's house.
I remember when I first came on that if you did make a car stop, you immediately got a crowd. Today, you not only don't normally gather the crowds, but when you do gather a crowd, it's the people don't tend to be as hostile. The quality of the arrests we're making now are much better, no doubt about it. But I think that we're getting kind of lethargic. We're sitting back. We're accepting the fact that we're a service-orientated department, which I think a person is inclined to think that we're at the beck and call of people. And I think that's what a lot of us are doing. We're just sitting back waiting to be called.
Unless you want to run them here. We're more community relations orientated.
Over the last several years,
there's no need to repeat grim statistics. The police officer knows his chances for survival have narrowed. To defeat these increasing odds, it is up to the individual officer and his department to prepare. Prepare literally for survival.
1 Adam, silent alarm.
The officer must be prepared in advance for immediate action prior to the stop. He releases his shotgun, places the public address mic on the floorboard, and has the radio mic on the seat. The location for... Are you? Approach a potentially dangerous situation with extreme caution. Observe, diagnose, and plan. Plan your action, and when possible...
Applications. It's marijuana.
Legal implications is a gentle way to describe the trouble a person can get into over marijuana. Its possession is prohibited in practically every country in the world. In 28 of the United States, possession constitutes a felony.
Incident at 232 West Courthouse Lane.
Nobody can tell me what to do with my own body, what I can eat, drink, or smoke. This is a free country, and nobody has the right to take away my constitutional rights.
That could be a fact if you were the only one, but as a matter of health, mental health, period.
I think it's terrible that the American people have accepted a law that makes smoking a harmless weed illegal. Marijuana is legal all over the world. There's no question about it. Marijuana should be made legal. Now! Now! Make marijuana legal!
There's no question about it. Many young people agree with that. Let's examine the facts.
And nothing large enough to hide even a small boy should be overlooked. And no search is finished until the same area has been checked out from a different direction by a second officer. For one thing, he sees things from a different angle, and he'll have different perceptions than the first officer.
Put your hand up. One out slowly.
And again, the use of a shotgun is a matter of situation and your own department's procedures. The same goes for the suspect's search position. And when you found a suspect, that's no reason to assume it's a one-man job.
Where's your partner?
Don't have one.
Come on, where is he?
Malone.
Until every possible hiding place has been checked and cleared, the search goes on. The search of a bigger building calls for very much the same basic strategy and techniques, only more so. All sides of the building covered, and all escape exits, of course, have to be sealed off. With a guard posted at any access, a basement search can be put off till the last. The search should be held down to one floor at a time, starting on the ground floor. The guard is needed at each elevator and stairway access to keep the suspect from moving to a previously searched floor. Every man should know where his teammates are at all times. In opening a door, make sure it swings all the way back to the wall, or it could mean a suspect is behind it. And move in fast, so you won't be silhouetted target or block your partner.
Okay, you want to check the other one down? Clear. One right here.
Usually, you can save closed doors for the last.
see him. Come on out of there, pal. Get that other hand out. Okay, come on out from there. Around that way, over there, hands on the wall. Get your hands up.
And again,
hands up.
The search isn't over until you're sure you've got them all. So now, check yourself out on a few of the key strategies and techniques of handling burglary in progress. Is this true or false? If you spot indications of burglary, you should move in fast. The answer's false. Try to prevent an escape, but call in help. Search of a building is a team job. True or false? All members of the search team should go in through the same entrance. True.